Hello. It is Friday, December 19th. It's about 9:30 Eastern Standard Time here in quaint, chilly, and damp New Hampshire. And I said I was going to be online tonight to do a live chat, so here I am. I totally misplaced time on the last one. The kids were having a late bedtime, and when I got done, I just sat down on the couch and it was like, all right, that's it, and forgot that I had said that I was going to do a live stream. So for those of you who see this, who were trying to watch at that point in time, I'm sorry. I just totally forgot. So if you're here, I appreciate you guys. It is awesome to see you and see your comments as they come through. And I am hoping that we can have some cool chats tonight. I have the chat windows set up a little bit differently this time. Before, I had to toggle through 4 different tabs to find it. And I just spent a half an hour trying to set it up so it would all show up in the same place. I'm sure I didn't do it completely right, but we will find out. Either way, I will do the work of clicking through, chatting, and asking questions. Hopefully there are a bunch. Happy to answer your questions as best I can. Tonight, I don't have Steve Van Samson with me. Steve is the narrator of several of my titles. He's kind of my go-to guy right now. He lives locally, as I said last week. Super cool guy, great voice, awesome talent. And he did the hat trick for me, my entry in the Ravaged Skies universe. And he did the sequel to Colony Lost, Colony of Lies. And those two basically showed me that I needed him to do Undead Glitch. So he is recording Undead Glitch. He's almost done. He's just got a little bit to do. We're at the deadline now. He got sick and lost his voice for 2 weeks. Kind of put us behind the 8 ball. But we have plenty of time. Everything is well. He's only got, I think, 2 more to submit. And I don't anticipate there being any problem. Anyway, Steve's not with us tonight. Tonight is one of his daughter's birthdays. So obviously he is going to be doing that. And I wish him and her a wonderful night and a wonderful birthday. But because he's not here, I'm going to have to just make shit up as I go. So if anyone has any questions, so I don't have to just make stuff up, fire away. Or if you just want to comment, and I can riff off that. I talked about the Undead Glitch's release timeline. Everything is slated to go live on the 7th of January, which is just 19 days away, something like that, which is amazing and crazy and cool. I've been working on this book for a very long time, gestating it and then writing it. So the fact that it's so close is quite a significant thing to wrap my mind around. And it'll be out in all formats on the 19th. The print usually goes live about 24 hours before the other formats. That way people can order it and via Prime can get it on the day of, which is cool. You can't pre-order the print, but I will post all the links and stuff when it goes live. And you can pre-order the Kindle ebook and the audiobook. So if you want to go to Amazon or Audible, you can absolutely toss a credit at those now. And it'll also show up in the Plus catalog, the all-you-can-listen catalog. So I have a few titles in that catalog now, and it works the same thing as Kindle Unlimited. You pay a subscription level for the Plus catalog, and any title that is enrolled in the Plus catalog you can listen to for as long as you have that membership and as long as they're enrolled in the program. So if at any point in time an author says, I don't want to do it anymore, and they pull their title out, it will disappear from the Plus catalog. So it's not like I got it for free forever. It's I got it for free as long as the author participates. And Glitch will be in that program. So if you do have that level, you can get it through that. I still get paid if you do that. So if you're worrying about me getting stiffed, don't. Consume the book however you can, however you want to. Hello, Abigail and Joan. Yay, I'm seeing chats. I did something right. reread it in an easier to consume form. Yeah, the reading it on Patreon is really cool and neat for a lot of people, but also I would say the majority of people who read on my Patreon, so they get it way ahead of time. Like the book has been out on Patreon for probably a month now, maybe more. Most of the people are like, I don't even read it. I just, pay you the $5 because it's awesome to send you $5 a month. Hey, Ryan. Yeah, it's so awesome. The book is so much fun. It is so cool. I got a really nice cover, which you can see the art is really good. I hired a very high level artist to do it, and I should say an art house. We got great looking stuff here. In the inside of the book, I did lots of retro gamery stuff. So the chapter headings are all in like a pixelated gamer font, and I did a lot of cool iconography inside it to kind of break up with scene breaks and stuff like that. So inside, it's just a cool looking book. You can see it's got the pixelated text, which is really fun, which doesn't change the quality of the writing or anything, but when you're holding it and it's a game about video game, it looks cool. Really happy about it. Happy it's coming out on the 7th. And in related news, I forgot I was going to talk about this. A month and a half ago, 2 months ago, I forget the exact timeline. I can't remember if I reached out to them or they reached out to me, but there's a company coming called Thorns Tavern. And what is it? I got the thing right here. Thorns Tavern. And if you are a gamer, like a tabletop miniatures gamer or a tabletop D&D player, a lot of times you have miniatures for your characters, right? So you can put them on the table and move them around a map so you can kind of visualize what's going on in the game. And not all tables play with miniatures, but quite a few do. And I have a few miniatures for characters of mine. And when I'm DMing, I usually have some level of miniatures play for the players who like to see things more visually. Thorns Tavern is similar to a company that does custom miniatures called Hero Forge. And Hero Forge, if you've never used them, basically they have an interface where you design like a 3D version of a character you want to play, and they 3D print it for you and send it to you. So you get like a completely custom miniature for your tabletop. They also do full color miniatures now, and they come in all different sizes. So you can get, like action figure size miniatures of your D&D character or just any character in general. It doesn't have to be for games. You can just make a, statuette. Thorns Tavern does basically the same thing, but they have I'm going to say the curse word, an AI supported interface where you load in an image that you have the rights to, and then their program extrapolates what that image would look like as a 3D object and then generates a 3D model based on that. It is not used to train any learning models. It's not shared anywhere outside of the interface. And I was very clear with them that that was a deal breaker for me to work with me. And basically, they just take an image and use their program, your ball game, gag or game. Sorry, Tony. Anyway, they take your image and create a 3D image on it and then print that for you. And they can do it in full 3D, full color. And they were looking for IP to use to help launch their Kickstarter because, launching these things is exorbitantly expensive. They were, their minimum, I think, was $20,000, and that was just to get the ball rolling. And I think they got way, way, way more than that, which is great. But I sent them in the cover to Glitch, and I was like, hey, if you guys want to make a miniature of my guy, I think that would be pretty cool. And they were like, yep, we want to do that. So here's all the paperwork you got to sign. And then they sent me a picture of it, and I was like, damn, that's a miniature that looks great. And then on the Kickstarter, you can actually see the miniature, and it looks awesome. And they put the book cover up, so there's some cool cross promotion. But they actually sent me the miniature, and it's more of a megature. It's I think it's probably 50 millimeter scale, which a normal D&D character is like. Actually, I happen to have a couple miniatures right here. So this is a druid. All right, I don't know if you can see, but this is 28 millimeter. So a 6-foot character would be 28 millimeters tall. Little druid lady. She's got water and stuff. And then they have slightly bigger style miniatures. And this guy's kind of a rotund guy. This guy is a 32 millimeter. I don't know if you can tell, but he's notably larger in girth and height. And then they sent me Seth Willard, the main character of An Undead Glitch, in 54 millimeter. This is the guy. And it came out awesome. It looks just like him. Like all the colorations, right? Even the backside of him's correct. The only thing that they didn't get on him was the messenger bag that's supposed to appear on his back, but there was no way for them to know that with the program they have. But just for, reference, there's Seth, right? And then there's the miniature. How cool is that? It's the fucking guy. Isn't that neat? So this will now live on my desk until I die of old age because this is fucking cool. And like, I don't want to shill their product too much, but it's really neat. And you can like load a photo of somebody in and it will generate a miniature of that person, which is like, the opportunities are like, I don't even know, like I could get them made of my kids, of my wife, they're gonna like a board game where we're just like knocking over tables and shit, chasing pandas or whatever. But anyway, big thanks to them, Thorns Tavern. They also, what else did they send me? They sent me other stuff. They sent me like a beer bottle opener and a very swanky tablet stylus with their company name on it, which is really cool. Just a little thank you for allowing them to use my stuff to cross promote, which is a really cool opportunity, frankly. So this guy, he showed up, very exciting, and on track for the 7th. That was the big thing that I wanted to talk about. So if anybody was wondering, Undead Glitch, my first LitRPG book, will be out January 7th. Tied into that, before I dwell too much on Glitch, several people have been nagging me, rightfully so, about the status of Adrian's Undead Diary. It got backburnered a little bit more this year than I would have liked, and also Diggory did as well, which is something else I need to talk about. But with everything going on this summer and with Glitch kind of taking over, and the opportunity of kind of having to write it, kind of stepping in the way, Diggory 4 and AUD 16 got pushed back. I am working on AUD 16 diligently, daily, you could say. I have Wabbit right over there. Where is he? Oh, right there. Yeah, I'll dig him out in a second, Anthony. I have Anthony Castro, the guy who does Dead Man Walking comics and Bad Wabbit, got some really cool 3D printed statuettes of Bad Wabbit made, and I've got one on my shelf over there. Anyway, AUD 16 got pushed back, and I'm working on it now. Progress is bursty, I'll say that. And the more I write in this book, the heavier the weight of the book becomes, because this is the last book of the Adrian's March arc, right? The second 8 books of the core series of Adrian's. And I have been building towards this book for 9 books now. And that's just in the core series. Like the events in book 8, Cassie, referenced stuff that is just now coming to fruition in book 16. And there are events in probably 3 or 4 of the tales from the world of AUD that factor into this book as well. The second anthology, Only the Light We Make, has stuff that leads into this book. The third anthology, Dead Lucky, has stuff. The Other Side has stuff in it. I think An Ill Wind might have a little bit. London Burns definitely has stuff in it. So what's happening is the more I write in this book, the more of these threads, from 8 different things and all of these, foreshadowing elements and flashback moments and whatnot, I'm having to tie in, and it's requiring me to, stop and go, right? So when I'm writing and I don't have to do any research of my own writing, the writing is going great. But then there are points where I have notes where it's like, stop, make sure you check this, don't forget to leave these things. And then I have to stop, do all the research, make sure everything I write lines up with the plan that I had 11 years ago, something like that, which is crazy to think about. it's really, really fun and really, really cool that I'm at this point in the story. And I am like really enjoying some of these moments because they're like, we're talking like massive payoff moments, right? Where, spoiler alert, if you're not caught up with Adrian's, in the last book, there's a storyline where they cross a bridge and then stuff happens and they have to return, but they realize that the undead have kind of choke pointed the bridge. And we know based on everything leading up to that moment that crossing that bridge again is going to be a significant thing. It's going to be like a major scene. And I've been building up for that for a while. So making sure that I stuck the landing and making that scene worthwhile, and feel high stakes and have there be real danger and a sense of victory out of it is tough. There's a lot of weight, but I did it. It's good. I'm happy. And all of the other things are coming together, like side characters that have been kind of secondary are now stepping into the light that has been kind of reserved for them. Things that have been hinted at are showing whether or not they were real or not. And it's just taking a long time to write the book, and it's a good thing because it means that I'm being diligent and taking my time and focusing and making sure that I'm writing a quality book, not just churning out something to sell. But it does mean it's taking longer. So I hope everyone can kind of roll with me on it. Progress is good, but it is coming in bursts, as I said. So oh crap, I need to figure out when to throw the tails at my dude. Yeah, just throw him, like hit him in the face if you can. So that's AUD. That's where that's at. Diggory 4 will kind of have to sit and wait to see what happens with Glitch in January. I will be done writing AUD by then, absolutely, for sure. And I don't have to worry about Adrian for a while. I'm definitely parking Adrian for at least a year or two. And if Glitch takes off and does extremely well, I will probably roll into Glitch 2, because you have to kind of chase the dragon on that. And that being said, I might write Diggory 4 kind of simultaneously. I've got it all the way outlined already. It's ready to go. It just needs, to have time pointed at it. And things happen. Once Diggory is wrapped up and Adrian is wrapped up, I can then devote time to hopefully Glitch in the Corrupted campaign, which I would like to be a new kind of flagship series for me. But again, it depends on how it's received, how reviews are, and whether or not people recommend it and if sales are decent. But with any other time that I might have, I would also really like to continue wrapping up the Dry Earth trilogy. Only 2 of those 3 books are out, and even though that series did not set the world on fire in terms of sales, the fact that it's an unfinished trilogy drives me mental. And along that line, the Colony Lost stuff, I still have people asking me about it fairly regularly, but again, didn't find a huge following. And a second book would probably help. I pushed the first book onto the front burner, and with Adrian and Diggory parked, I will be able to donate time to hopefully both of those projects. I don't know in which order or what that looks like, but that's my hope. So we'll see. Abigail, working underwriting to pre-order Glitch. Thank you, Abigail. I appreciate that. I don't have access to what the pre-order numbers look like, but it's still charting in the top 20 of LitRPG post-apocalyptic pre-orders, which is a fairly niche category, but it means that people are pre-ordering it steadily, which is good. So, Anthony, a whole lot of stuff to track. Do I ever think my brain will explode? It gets real cluttered. I won't lie. There are days where I bust ass all day and I work as much as I can. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, I still got these 30 things to do. And, it's just me. I don't have an assistant. I don't have anybody stepping in to kind of help me with these things. And then as soon as I'm done working, it's like I got to step into being a dad and a husband. And my wife does 90% of the thinking for the family, which is just kind of the way it goes for moms and wives, which sucks. And I try really, really hard, but I suck at it. It's not a skill that I have cultivated over my life. And my mom growing up actively insisted that I don't learn how to do that. She was very stuck in like old gender roles. So I did not have good experiences learning how to do it growing up, which is tough because I wish I had. And my dad reinforced it as well. So, I'm not saying it's her fault. It's definitely a collective issue. And I try hard. But, I'm a fairly fully baked cookie by this point in my life. Abigail, thank you for bringing up LitRPG. One of the things that I wanted to talk about with Glitch, and I talked about this again, but it bears repeating, is that the LitRPG genre and the associated genres with it, which are game lit and progression fantasy, are all kind of like off the same tree. And they're basically like gaming books for gamers, video gamers, tabletop gamers, people into stories like that, whether they're on a TV screen or on a tabletop, or if you're into the live play shows for D&D like Critical Role or any of those. The idea is the characters are immersed in a game. The world that they are in somehow becomes gamified, and you get to experience them as if they were inside like a role-playing game. And they are themselves, or they take on the persona of somebody in the universe, and they get classes or get skills, and they have to kind of improve themselves to progress through the story. And the improvements aren't just like, I did the thing, I got better at a skill. It's like quantified, right? So, to use an example that's hot because the new show just came out, Fallout, right? If you've ever played Fallout 3, 4, or New Vegas, you have your special stats, SPECIAL, and they're basically like your ability scores. They determine how smart you are, how persuasive you are, how intelligent you are, how lucky you are, and so on. When you load into the Fallout universe, you make a character, you assign numbers to those. That's what you get good at. Then you pick skills, so on. And then you play with what you get, and then you cultivate the skills that are good or bad. And then depending upon the content you interact with, you may do totally different shit. And that's kind of what LitRPG is. You're just telling that story. So instead of watching someone do it online or doing it yourself in a video game, you're experiencing that story as it's read to you on an audiobook or as you read it. And it's become wildly popular lately. And I've wanted to get into it now for several years. And it's kind of like the soup du jour now for, authors who have some kind of gamery background to dip their toes into it. So in that way, I'm kind of capitalizing. But that's not really my point. I really want to write a book like this because I am, wearing my Run D&D shirt. I'm surrounded by gamer bullshit right now. Like I have a miniatures painting station. My shelves are covered in books and gaming shit. I play D&D or role-playing shit like 3 times a week. I'm living the dream. I have a character sheet on my desk right now. And it's just really fun because you get to you chase the scratch ticket fever of, when someone gets loot and they open the box and it's like, ooh, what are they going to get? And sometimes it's great and sometimes it's not. And in a video game, you're constantly chasing that dopamine, right? Where you're like, oh, okay, I'm just going to do one more raid tonight. I'm going to do one more loot run, or I'm going to check this one more house. And if you are a fan of Adrian's, the whole first and second book, even into the third book, is that the structure of that story is that. And that's exactly where I got it from. This gaming experience of I'm going to hit one more location and loot it. I'm going to go into one more room and I'm going to loot it. And it's dangerous and I'm low on hit points, but I'm going to do it because I could get that thing. What if I find a shotgun, right? And that was the inspiration for a lot of that in that moment. And I kind of I'm going back to that kind of feeling and bringing it in with Glitch, right? Because Seth is living through a zombie apocalypse simulation, but it's not really a simulation, and he doesn't know that till he's in it. And the setting inside the game, the town that they're in, shares a lot of similarities with the town in Adrian's. So, as he's moving through the universe inside this game setting, you'll realize a lot of the stuff kind of wait a minute, I've heard that name before. I know where that street is. And items show up that appear in the storyline, and there's a lot of Adrian inside Glitch, which is really fun. but it's the same kind of thing where Seth is like, just like Adrian, like looting houses and going down the line and trying to find gear and trying to find food and trying to find, ways to improve himself and leveling up the classes that he has to have better skills and more survivability. Just like Adrian was, really. Except I didn't talk about those game statistics because, Adrian's is not a lit RPG title. But it's really fun. It's just kind of cool to gamify a book, right? So that's where that's at. My fans, the Easter eggs are pretty great. My fans, generally speaking, are not the overlap of Zompok readers and listeners and lit RPG readers and listeners. The Venn diagram there has a fairly small sliver, I think. And my hope is that I can get a whole bunch of my AUD people to kind of push over and try Glitch, because it's still a Zompok novel, right? There's still zombies. There's still all of the elements that I bring with Adrian, the combat, the fighting, the horror. And hopefully I can get them to kind of come over and try. And hopefully the people who are into LitRPG will come over and try in the middle, right? And that Venn diagram will get bigger in the center. But in order to get my people who have been following me for 15 years now, 16 years, to try Glitch, I just got to keep talking about it, which is why I'm doing a lot of these chats. And hopefully they'll roll the dice on it and say, all right, well, it's not Adrian, but I'll try it. And then I've got a lot of help from a lot of people in the lit RPG genre, just trying to push Glitch in front of their fans for them to give it a try. They're vouching for me, which is huge. So we'll see how it does. We'll see how it goes. And my sincere hope is that it becomes a thing that people really enjoy, and I can turn it into a heck of a series that runs long. Initially, right now, I'm looking at 4 books. But if it does well, I have ideas, like fun ideas, for perhaps 6 or 7 more. We'll see. But, first it's got to come out, and we got to start collecting reviews. If you haven't done lit RPG stuff, there's a ton of it out there. And I mean a ton of it. Like the market is flooded. And you can do a lot of it for free through a website called Royal Road. Royal Road is eerily similar to what I did initially with Adrian, just posting online. But instead of my website, where only my story was, Royal Road is like a collection of where anyone can post any kind of web fiction. You can post literally anything you want there, but it has become the online hub, the proving ground, the gladiatory arena for lit RPG, game lit, and progression fantasy. So even the biggest of the biggest lit RPG authors will post stuff on Royal Road, so people get a free teaser. And I put Glitch up there, and it got a couple hundred followers, I think, which is cool, because the vast majority of those people are people who've probably never read any of my writing at all. And even 100 new readers and listeners is like awesome. So hopefully those people can keep following me and continue to be a part of my sort of sphere of writing community. But if you're looking for other authors and you want to try the genre out, there are several authors that I have listened to or read or have met and consider good people. And I'm going to throw a bunch of names out, and I'll try to talk slowly. The juggernaut in the lit RPG community right now is Matt Dinneman. Matt wrote Dungeon Crawler Carl, which, if you haven't heard of it by now, I would be surprised, quite frankly, because Audible promotes it so much. And he just signed a massive deal with Simon & Schuster for hardcovers and Barnes & Noble and all that jazz. And he's just everywhere right now. It just got optioned actually, they're in production for TV right now with Seth MacFarlane. It's a great series of books. The 8th book is out now. They're super fun. They're very tongue-in-cheek. The action's great. The storyline's good. Carl's a great character. Carl's sidekick, a cat named Donut, is also a great character. It's kind of like the default central experience of lit RPG right now. It's not the first. It might not be the best, but it's definitely the biggest right now, and I'm a big fan of it. So Sean Oswald has a bunch of really big series out, and Sean is also a very vocal supporter of the community of writers. Yeah, Mongo the dinosaur, mount for the cat. Sean is a huge supporter of the community. He runs a LitRPG Facebook page that has, I don't know, like 10,000 people following it, and he's just always helping other people out. Is super transparent and supportive and protects other writers and is always there to lend advice. So from like a purely good guy standpoint, Sean Oswald's the shit. He's also got several very, very large series out. He's got a book on pre-order right now that's like the #1 book in fantasy for pre-order. Like he's up there. One of the original guys is Aileron Kong. Aileron has laid claim to the title that he is the father of American lit RPG. And the claim comes from the fact that he was one of the first writers that was American that wrote lit RPG. Whether he was the first, I don't know. Was he the biggest first? Maybe. He's alienated a bunch of people by laying claim to that, but also he probably has some level of claim to it. So I'm not going to hold that against him. He's got quite a few books out, and they're quite good. Because Royal Road is where a lot of these authors kind of get their first audience, they have like screen names, right? Like your tag, right? Just like your gamer tag. And a lot of these authors on Royal Road, when they transition or if they transition to selling at retail, they use their tag, their handle on Royal Road as their author name. So Pirate Abba writes the Wandering Inn series. I don't even know who Pirate Abba is, but Wandering Inn is a absolutely mammoth series. It's like, I don't even know how many books it is, but each of the books is like 400,000 words. Enormous. 3 books, 4 books in one. It's a little bit more cozy, a little bit more low key. And it's literally about an inn that wanders around like on legs, like Baba Yaga's hut. Casual Farmer has a series, a slice of life lit RPG thing where it's literally like a dude farming chickens and leveling up the farm and like kind of lower stakes stuff. It's like a chill, funny read. James Hunter is I would say an acquaintance and on the line of being a friend. He and I met in Jersey at the Audible conference and hung out for like 3 days together. And he's got several big series out. Viridian Gate Online and his newer one, Discount Dan's Backroom Bargains, is great. Super cool dude. He and his wife Jeanette run Shadow Alley Press, which puts out a lot of lit RPG titles. They are really great people. I hung out with Jeanette, his wife, as well. Awesome people, and James has been hugely helpful behind the scenes with making sure that I'm doing stuff right and keeping me, on point. I'm supposed to have him on here on one of these chats one night, which will be really, really fun because he's a great dude. If you like my writing and you like Dungeon Crawler Carl, his Discount Dan series is like right in that alley. Discount Dan's really fun. Like the magic items that show up are just fucking nonsense. And he's got the same kind of like, military veteran sort of verbiage that Adrian has. So if you like Adrian as a character, his main character, Dan, is cut from the same cloth. And there's just a lot of nonsense. Like a lot of it's just quirky humor, and the horror stuff is horror. And it's just really, really great series. Carl. Isekai, yep. Isekai's a kind of lit RPG. I'm so excited to read that, Carl. I love your writing, and I know you're going to crush it. Yeah, I was going to say, why the fuck are you up? It's like 5 hours ahead. I'm sorry you're awake, my friend. I'm going to have trouble sleeping tonight, I can already tell. The wife is gone, and it's just me here in the house with the kids, and I frequently have trouble falling asleep when she's not around. She keeps me honest. Anyway, Discount Dan is awesome. Really great story. Highly recommend it. I haven't read or listened to his Viridian Gate series, but it's real popular. So, and I can absolutely vouch and recommend Discount Dan. I think there's 2 books in the series, and I think the 3rd one's coming out soon, or it just came out. I forget. I'm in the tail end, the 2nd book, which is a lot of fun. It's called Cul-de-sac Carnage. Michael Chatfield is also a really great author in the genre. I won't hold it against him that he's not American. He's originally from Canada, but now has Irish citizenship and is, I think he might have American citizenship now. He's like a man of the world. And he's a Canadian Army veteran as well. And he writes a lot of stuff that's also in the vein of me. Same kind of sense of humor, same kind of characters. He's got some really great like military sci-fi lit RPG out there, the 10 Realm series. And I've read his Emerillia books, which is about an alien race that has enslaved humanity to become like warrior puppets, if you will. It's kind of like the Matrix in the sense that these aliens have kind of plugged everybody into a computer and they're using our brains to power wars, essentially. Yeah, Shirtaloon is actually 2 more down on my list, Carl. Anyway, that Emerilli is a really fun series. Dakota Kraut is another really big guy. I hung out with James, Dakota, and Michael in Jersey. Dakota Kraut, his claim to fame is he writes like cleaner stuff. So same kind of great sense of humor, great pacing, great action, really creative stuff, but with less swears and less horror. And Dakota also publishes a lot of lit RPG for people and does a lot for the community as well. So he's just a really great guy, and his wife Danielle is fantastic. We hung out a lot in Jersey. Again, they're just fantastic dudes. Shirtaloon, Travis Deverell, did He Who Fights with Monsters, huge series, probably like top 3, top 4 series in the genre. A lot of people love it, but like everything that's loved, it's sort of polarizing. Some people absolutely love it, some people absolutely hate that. But it's like, you know, any series, any genre, very popular, kind of seminal core experience. And then Zogarth, which does Primal Hunter, is like again one of the other top 5 sort of guys in the genre. So that would be like my to-do list of people to check out. I'm not saying listen to all of them or read all of them, but those are the people who are like, you know, if you're getting into the genre, that's like the kind of the checklist that you want to go through. Hopefully, I can get my name on that list at some point. I don't know what I'm doing, and hopefully I'll get the support of everybody, and we'll kind of figure it out from there. But that was kind of my agenda for tonight. So if anyone has questions, there's only a handful of people watching, so I'll hang out, answer questions. Anything tonight? Anything at all? Personal, private, medical, glitch, AUD, diggery, anything is good. Like I was just saying that like my office is filled with gaming shit and I have gaming stuff everywhere, and I'll just like I got this really cool new pivoting thing here. Part of the mess in the corner, but like that's just the bookshelves that are in my office here, the built-ins that I made, and pretty much all of those shelves is gaming books. Up at the top on the left, the top shelf is 2nd edition Dark Sun stuff if you play D&D, and then next to that is more Dark Sun stuff, and then Planescape and Forgotten Realms, and then in the center middle column up top is the Dark Sun novels. Those are all of the Dark Sun novels that were ever put out. Dark Sun was my favorite setting in 2nd edition. And then Fading Suns books, if you're into that. Plus I think Shadowrun is up there. And then the next rung over, top upper right corner, is also all Fading Suns books, which is like a science fiction fantasy a la Star Wars kind of setting, which is really fun. Nobilis is up there in the far right corner. It's a white book, which is you play as a god role-playing game. Really hard to find out of print. Next row down, left side, Spelljammers. Not a complete set of Spelljammers, but pretty close. Then there's some 5th edition books in there. Picture of the Bub, signed by the actor Bub. Behind that is a bunch of graphic novels. Middle box is dice stuff. Next over, start the White Wolf collection over here towards the wall. Wraith, a whole bunch of books from Wraith. I'm asshole buddies with Rich Dansky, who was one of the developers for Wraith and for White Wolf, and I got a whole bunch of books from him this year, which is really nice. Hunter, Werewolf, a lot of that stuff. The one with the red light is It doesn't show up as red in this picture. It shows up as yellow, but it's actually red as hell. In there is all of my werewolf books from White Wolf and Vampires of the East. Next row down over here, Lego House. That's the cafe my wife and I built for like our second date, which was really sweet. More graphic novels, Lego BB-8, Lego D&D guys, and then 5th edition books, which are all the red kind of crowned ones. And then I got some of the store exclusive ones. And then the bottom row, more Legos. It's the Lego bookstore because, you know. And then Eon, which was a science fiction game that White Wolf Publishing put out in the late 90s that got sued to oblivion from MTV because of Aeon Flux. But I have the original that has Eon on the cover, which is pretty sweet. And then the center one, right above where the lamp is on the floor, because that's where I need the light for streaming, Call of Cthulhu stuff. And then next to that, Mage the Ascension stuff. And then next to that is vampire stuff. And then there's like scattered novels all about. And then in storage in the garage here, I have totes and totes and totes and totes and totes of more role-playing shit. And I also have a whole bookshelf on the other side of the office here that's just got more shit in it. Because I've been gaming since like 89. And it is like the thing that I do. Like I said, I play some level of role-playing game 2 to 3 times a week, sometimes 4 if I'm lucky. And I used to consider once a month lucky, but I'm just like in a really good spot right now with this hobby. I don't do much miniature gaming anymore because miniature gaming takes up a lot of space. You need a big table. You got to transport armies, and painting is a huge pain in the ass. So I've been painting stuff for D&D, like tabletop guys, like this little druid that I showed earlier. Like I'm trying to paint up a little selection of miniatures to use in my campaigns and stuff like that. But painting an entire army is a motherfucker. Takes forever. But, you know, one-off little dudes here. Like I got this little dwarven barbarian kind of fella. You know, he's fun because I can paint one dude and be done. Don't have to worry about it. But if you're a Warhammer person, Warhammer is like one of the premier tabletop miniatures games. There's Age of Sigmar / Warhammer Fantasy, which is like, you know, knights in shining armor, monsters and that stuff. And then they have Warhammer 40K, which is like far future, grim dark, Space Marines kind of stuff. When I played, my primary army was Chaos Space Marines, which are like evil Space Marines. And specifically, I played Iron Warriors. And I don't have my Iron Warriors army anymore. I sold it a long time ago, which breaks my heart because it was a huge army and it was really cool. I put a lot of work into it. But they have these little guys from Joy Toy, which are action figure sized. And they have action figure sized Chaos Space Marines. These are actually pre-heresy. This is before they turned to Chaos. So this is a good guy. But I got 3 of those guys and they live on my desk. They're so cool. How long do you expect Glitch to go for full-length tale and story completion? LitRPG heads tend to love chunky and quick release. Yeah, chunky. I was saying earlier before you jumped on, Carl, that I have at least 4 books kind of like planned out for the series. And Glitch is big. Glitch is like 128,000 words, which is big for me. And that's about normal for the LitRPG genre. So if I go 4 books, they're all similar sizes. That's going to be about 500,000 words. As far as rapid release goes, it really depends on how book 1 does. I am fully prepared to roll directly into book 2 at the end of AUD 16, which will be in just a couple weeks. And if that's the case, I wrote the first book in about 3 months, which was really fast for me. It's taken me a long time to get back to writing a book that fast, but I had so much fun writing it, and it's such a fun story that when I'm like that jazzed about something, it's really easy to sit down for 5 hours and just write and write and write and write. When I'm struggling like I am with 16, where I have so much to backtrack and like, you know, stick the landing on, it takes way longer. Like I've been working on AUD 16 now for like 5 months and it's not done yet because I keep having to backtrack and keep having to go back and change things. And like, oh, I forgot this person. And then like at some point in time, this person has to factor in, and I got to make sure everyone kind of gets their payoff or their comeuppance if necessary. But Glitch is still really fresh and really exciting. And I'm hoping I can get, you know, maybe a couple out a year, which would be great. LitRPG guys tend to write faster than that, but I don't know how many LitRPG guys have 2 kids and a house and a wife and a dog and all that stuff. So, but I'm hoping it does well, and I'm hoping it can be a flagship series for me because it is really fun to write, and the characters are great, and I love the system I invented for it. So, but yeah, I show you all the books on my shelves here, and like the reason why I want to write LitRPG stuff or try to write LitRPG stuff is because it's a huge part of my life. Steve Bowers. Hey, I've gamed with Steve. I've been role playing since like 1989, and I was a game developer for WizKids for 3 years, working on the Clicks line of stuff. I don't know if you guys were into miniatures. They had the little Clicks guys. I don't think I have any right here. I don't think so. I do. Of course I do. But I worked on several of their games, if you guys remember these. This is a limited edition figure. These are hard to find. But I worked as a developer for them for several years, and I was line manager at one point for the Mage Knight Dungeons system. So this is can't see us how old I am. Snurga Longstrike. So this is a little orcish archer. I did not develop this character, but if you can see, there's a window, a stat window right here, right? And there's numbers in there. You probably can't see on my camera, but the idea was all the stats for the figure were in that window, and as it took damage, you could click the base. If you can hear that. But the numbers inside would change. So as you took damage, you would click the base down, and the stats would change, and then eventually the character would get knocked out. Took all the bookkeeping out of miniatures. All you had to do was show up with your miniatures. You didn't have to have cheat sheets or charts or anything like that. You just had to show up with the miniature. All the information was on. And I worked for them for 3 years. Worked on a bunch of stuff. The HeroClix game, I worked on that briefly. The Mech Warrior game, Crimson Skies. And then after I left WizKids, I got laid off. I worked for a couple of other game companies doing freelance stuff, and have consulted on a few things through the years. Not a ton the last 5-6 years, but I still talk to people. So anyway, LitRPG is like the next iteration. The fact that I got started writing, zombie apocalypse stuff was like a secondary interest, because like from like a reading standpoint and from a movies and TV show standpoint, I love the zombie apocalypse genre, right? It's like one of my go-tos, right? The amount of DVDs that I own of zombie apocalypse stuff before I was even a zombie apocalypse writer was substantial. And I had a lot of the books that were out before that, before the genre kind of took off when The Walking Dead came out. Like I had the first 10 or 12 Walking Dead graphic novels before I even started writing. So that was what I was passionate about writing at the time. But the other part of me is this gamer dude. So this is like me kind of leaning into the other part of it. And Diggory was a little bit in the middle, right? Because like Diggory, the character, was a guy who owned a game store, and I used to co-own a game store. So that shows up in Diggory. But this is different. So again, really excited. And I'm really excited to wrap up AUD 16, which will be the end of the March series, like I said, and I can kind of give that closure. Everybody knows that Adrian is marching towards Tommy to try and reunite with his brother in the story, and I'm kind of like there now. Like whatever's happening for that is happening in the story. And like I said, everyone's getting their payoffs, everyone's getting their comeuppance, and we're seeing these storylines kind of come full circle, and it's really exciting to see that finally happen. And it's also mad daunting to write it and again stick the landing. So Abigail, read your first LitRPG because of the Ring Family chat. I know the chat's gone. Sucks. I'm grateful for my background too. Thank you. If I hadn't done as much random shit as I had done in my life, I would definitely not be doing what I am doing now, which is bewildering. I also, did a lot of job hopping when I was younger due to ADHD and turmoil in the family. And a lot of the jobs that I took for, only 3 months, because I just needed a job, helped me learn what I did and didn't want to do. And I was not the kid who knew what they were going to do growing up, right? Like my wife, God bless her, knew from the time she was like 14 that she wanted to be a therapist. And she, went through high school wanting to be a therapist, graduated high school wanting to be a therapist, immediately went to a school to get a psychology degree to be a therapist, joined a master's program to be a therapist, and then did all of her hours to get her license as a therapist, and has been a therapist since then. And loves what she does, is so happy with her career choices, and she's had that guiding principle for the majority of her mature life. I, on the other hand, had no fucking idea what I was doing on a daily basis. A lot of turmoil at home. I've gone into that trauma before. I don't want to go into it again, but my parents were barely getting by themselves, never mind trying to provide me a stable environment to jump off from to kind of make a solid life decision. So when I was birthed into the world, I was like just trying to grab on and figure out what was an option for me. College was not an option for me. I barely made it through high school. Not because I wasn't intelligent, but because I couldn't be fucking manipulated to give a shit. And I did not like a lot of my teachers. And my parents just didn't care. How was school? All right, cool. And I would bring home my report card and they would be like, oh, you got some B's. Good job. They didn't say anything about the D's. But what's funny is I graduated high school with like a 2.2 GPA, 2.3 GPA, something really bad. But I had like a 3.95 in college because it was stuff I was invested in, right? It was things that I was super interested in learning. And I was able to pick and choose classes and focus on the things that I wanted to learn. And once I'm interested in something, the brain kicks in, totally different. Steve, surprised you didn't find direction sooner. Your artistic bent was so pronounced. Thank you for saying that. I mean, I've been creative since first grade. I have books that I made in first grade. Like I literally still have them on shelves. And in retrospect, it was obviously there. My parents did absolutely nothing to foster it. They did not talk about it. They did not encourage it. My dad was incredibly blue collar. My mom was also blue collar, and they were just like, yeah, you'll get a job. You'll figure it out, whatever. It was never, find what you love kind of a thing. It was like, well, find something you can deal with that'll pay the bills. So from that mindset, that was just kind of what going into life was. And the idea of being creative, didn't even strike me as an option, ever. Always wanted to be a game developer, right? Always wanted to make games, but it never, ever occurred to me at that age that you could do that as a job. That could be an option for you, right? And my first degree when I went to college was a business degree, which was a mistake. And I worked in the printing industry at that point in time, label printing, which I could tell stories about for hours and hours and hours. I was doing that about the time that I met you, Stephen. I was helping running a printing press and eventually became a shift manager and then purchasing agent. And that's when I realized I hated business and went back to get a psychology degree with a minor in criminal justice, which was the formative stuff where how I learned how to properly write stuff and learned how to formulate ideas. And the psychology aspects of that degree play hugely into the writing, trying to be authentic to real mental health stuff and the process of dealing with grief and PTSD and, hope and trauma and all that. And the criminal justice stuff was, at the time I was like, well, if I fail as a psychologist or I don't want to do that, I can be a cop, right? Because if you've never met me, I'm a substantial human being. I may not look it sitting in this chair, but I'm almost always the biggest guy in the room. And I just project stability. And it was like, well, I could always be a cop. I'm big enough. I know the rules enough. I'll get a minor in criminal justice. And one of the jobs that I actually was briefly offered was to be a state trooper here in New Hampshire. But I wound up not doing that job because it sounded horrible because it was at the because I didn't have prior military experience. The initial job that they offered me was working at the state mental hospital, which conveniently enough is called the Philbrook Hospital in Concord, New Hampshire. And I am related to the woman that it's named after distantly. But I did not want to work in a mental hospital, working with the incarcerated mentally ill, which is the worst of the worst. I said, I don't want to do that. So other roads led me to being a writer. and I'm grateful for it. A lot of the choices didn't seem like the right choices, but it led me to this point. So, hey, cool, right? Like, I'm happy. I'm good. I live a good life. It's neat and fun. It's crazy. It's hectic. Sometimes it's really stressful, but it is really cool. Like, I didn't put pants on today, like at all. I wore pajamas and then put shorts on at some point. I'm still wearing the shorts because it's actually kind of nice out today. And on most days, I don't have to put pants on. Like, I could be in my underwear most of the time, and like I get paid, which is pretty sweet. And like when I look back on it, like one of my life goals was to not have to dress up for work. I have a lot of sensory stuff around like clothing, and I really like comfortable clothing. I don't like restrictive stuff. I don't like skin tight stuff. Ties. I break out in hives if I have to wear ties for too long. I don't like turtlenecks. I don't like mock turtlenecks. Like that feeling like really feels like exaggerated to me. And when I was working in business, one of the things that I loathed was having to wear a tie every day. Like it really, really affected my mental health. And I know that's stupid to say, but that's just the way I'm wired. And I remember thinking, I just want a job where I don't have to wear shit like this. I don't want to have to wear a suit. I don't want to have to dress up. I don't want to be business casual at all. Never mind business formal. And I think an enormous part of the last 20 years of my life was just finding a way to get paid where I could wear sweatpants. Like I woke up in the morning and was like, what can I do to make my life sweatpants friendly 24 hours a day? And I did it. I'm living that dream. So I feel very fortunate about that. I put a lot of work into becoming sweatpants friendly and or shorts friendly. If you've ever been around me during the summer, you know that I wear shorts every day, all day. I have a lot of leg tattoos, so like it's important for me to show them off. Finding a calling is hard. Yep. And like you say, dealing with trauma, and like my therapist says it was trauma, and it doesn't feel super traumatic. And there's a difference in the kinds of traumas that we can experience, in the sense that there's like acute trauma where an event is particularly traumatic and affects you, right? Like, the majority of PTSD, I believe, comes from a single event that was really shocking, or a intense series of events over a relatively short amount of time, a year or less, like military deployments. Huge effect, short scope, long time effect on the line, right? But then there's the other kinds of trauma where it's just like being in a hostile environment and how that retrains your psyche over time, right? Like they talk about hostile work environments, and those can affect you for years, right? Like the boss that I had when I was like, I got to get out of business, like he was very good at his job. He was incredibly knowledgeable, but he created an environment that was hard to work. It was hard to focus. He was constantly second guessing everybody, and not in a way that felt like, hey, let's look over that. Let's collaborate and make sure everything's great. It was like, did you do this? Did you do that? Did you do this? Can I check that? And it was just aggressive. And I didn't like that. Like it didn't feel cooperative. I didn't feel like he was teaching me anything. I felt like he was trying to catch me and show that I had done it wrong. And that experience with him as a boss affected me. And like when I went into future jobs, it was like, well, is this boss going to be a dick like that? And that's trauma. It's not super bad trauma, but it's still trauma. And my childhood, I was never beaten. My parents fed me, and I had clothes, and I was warm. But we moved a lot, like a lot. And I have trauma over losing friends and trying to make new friends, and losing friends and trying to make new friends. And for years and years and years, it really affected how I opened up to people and how I projected myself to people, because I was always the new kid. I was always trying to prove myself. I was always trying to fit in. It didn't matter because we moved every year. So every school year I had to restart again. And unfucking that out of my personality has taken years, where I'm, able to invest in relationships and friendships differently. And that kind of shows up in stories and stuff like that. And that makes them more authentic. So I'm not saying I didn't go through trauma, but I didn't go through acute trauma. I've had scary stuff happen to me that has, left an impact on me, but not to the level of, serious events. But dealing with how my childhood affected me in a very subconscious way has been a lot of work. And I'm glad I'm doing the work. And I'm glad my wife is glad that I'm doing the work. And doing the work helps me be a better dad, which is a really big deal to me. I really want to be a better dad. So, not that I'm a bad one, but as soon as I stop trying to be a better one, I'm becoming a worse one. So, if you weren't around, Carl, if you're still there, if you haven't fallen asleep, I got the miniature of Seth off the cover of Glitch. The company Thorn's Tavern made the miniature for me, and it's awesome. It looks just like him, which is really cool. So this guy's cool. I was kind of hoping they were going to send me a few, like 2 or 3 of them, so I could give one to Steve, my narrator. But they gave me one, and that's awesome, and I'm happy. But now I got to figure out like what other things I can do, because I have like credits with their system to order other characters. And like, oh, I want to get cool stuff. What am I going to do with them? I don't know. I don't know what I do with half the shit I have, but I have cool shit. And it's cool because I'm a bit of a squirrel. I like collecting things. But yeah, so I mean, professionally things are great. Things are good. Sales are good. Reviews are good. He does look, yeah, he's like a 50 millimeter, 54 millimeter. He's not, tabletop game worthy necessarily, but looks awesome. Really great showpiece. Yeah, writing like as a job is going well. I talked about struggles with AUD and making sure that the book 16 is as good as it needs to be and hits all the notes correctly. And Glitch is obviously hugely stressful because it's a whole new series, all new characters. It's a new genre-ish. So there's a lot of stress going on with that. So it's all exciting, like in Discount Dan, Dan has a moment where one of the characters, Jacob, who's German, is talking about how they're excited to do something, but also scared. And there's a word in German about that, like a specific word that's like scared, excited. And he says, Jacob says, you don't have a direct translation for a word that's, both excited and scared at the same time. And Dan's like, yeah, sure. We totally get a word for that. It's called a fear boner. And right now I have a fear boner over Glitch because I am super anxious about how well it's going to do and how it'll be received, but also super excited that I wrote it and really, really hopeful that it'll find an audience and do well. So, yeah. And we're in winter here, and it's been a cold winter. It's been very cold in our town. We've had a lot of 10 and 20 degree days, and we had that one big snowstorm a week and a half ago. We got about 10 or 12 inches, and it has stuck around. It was rainy today and like 50 degrees. I don't know what that is in Celsius for you, Carl, but warm, shorts weather, warm. And a lot of it is melting, and it was like rainy and foggy all day today. So it's still a winter wonderland, but more of a soggy, damp one here, at least. And yeah, weather's good. The house is good. We bought a house a year and a half ago, and it's an old farmhouse, 1797, which in America is old. And it's great. It's big. The house is big. Like my office is in the corner. And I think my office is like, I don't know, 10 by 10 or so. And like it's just a tiny piece of the house because it's like a rambling New England farmhouse. And the space is great. We all have plenty of room to maneuver, but it's an old house. And as a wise general contractor once said to me, when you buy a house this old, you're not just buying an old house. You are buying... Have a good night, Carl. Get some rest. I'm glad I was able to bore you to sleep. When you buy a house this old, you are buying all of the repairs that have been done to it from day one. You are also buying those things. And when he said that, I was like, yeah, fuck you. That's so true. Because, now that we're here and we've been here a while, we are starting to see all of the repairs and upgrades that the house has received in the 300 or so years that it's been, around. And some of them are fantastic. Some of them are great. And some of them might have been put in by Helen Keller. And finding like all these little surprises behind walls and under the floor and in the roof and all that jazz, it adds up. You see the cost of owning a house this old, and the market was crazy, so we overpaid for it. And then we've got all these repairs, and we live in a town that has a good school district, so our taxes are high. It's very expensive to live here, and we still love it. It's still a great house, but lots of work, lots of secrets. Yep. Yeah, and we knew we were getting into it when we bought the house. Like my wife and I like old houses, and we love that the feel, and like we have all old pine and hardwood floors that are really beautiful. And when we moved in, we got the whole house, the floors all redone except for the upstairs. Oh, that's not true. We had the girls' bedrooms and our bedroom redone as well, because it was all wide pine, like original wide pine, like 300-year-old wide pine. But we didn't do the living room because the living room is huge, and we didn't do the mudroom, and I think that's it. I think we did everything else. But we redid the floor to the living room this summer. We ripped up all the nasty carpet, which was circa 2004 when we got the tags up, and put down fresh new vinyl plank flooring. I did that. It was a 2-week job, and it looks great. It's wonderful. Looks awesome. Made the room a little colder, and it's a little louder, but we get a whole bunch of really cool throw rugs, which look really nice. But painting, they picked some really atrocious colors in the house, like neutrals, like maple. Like a lot of the house was colored maple, which like when you're putting it on your pancakes is great, but when you walk into a room and it's this like amber brownish color, it like doesn't bounce light, it doesn't make the room bright, and it looks like white that got a little dirty. So we've been like painting rooms and trying to make them cleaner and certainly brighter. One of the issues with buying a house this old, if you're not familiar with it, is they do not have a lot of ceiling lights. So, I think we have like 4 rooms in the house that don't have ceiling lights. Our dining room doesn't have a ceiling light. My room does. My wife's room does. The sitting room right here outside of my office does not have a ceiling light. Neither of the kids' rooms have ceiling lights. So lamps, we have tons of lamps. But that means if you have rooms that are painted dark, right, like darker colors, and you have to light it with lamps, it's a fight uphill unless the room is a brighter color. And my wife likes darker colors too, so we've been painting rooms mostly darker colors, which defeats the purpose of making them brighter. But at least the darker is clean, and the rooms look cool. She's into dark academia coloring, so if you're like into cool internal house decorating stuff, look up dark academia, and it's like a whole style, and it looks awesome. Our dining room and our sitting room are both dark academia decorated, and they look awesome, and they're really cool rooms, but they're dark as fuck, and they're very moody, and they're beautiful. But yeah, the old houses require a lot of work, and they're cool, like they're just neat, like big windows and wide doorways, generally speaking. Lots of neat closets. Our stairs are very steep in the house. We have 2 sets of stairs, one at the front of the house and one in the back, and both of them are very steep. I redid the stairwell at the front of the house this summer. We moved in to make the treads deeper, which worked out pretty well. I was able to extend them like a half an inch, mostly a half an inch, and then the bottom couple of stairs were bigger anyway, and I was able to do those another inch, which gives your foot a whole lot more purchase and makes them feel less like a ladder and more like a set of stairs. But old houses, right? Like, and there's no space in the house to make the stairwell bigger, so like we got what we got. But all new treads, all new risers, fresh, lacquer and finish and stuff like that. So they look great. They're way more sturdy. But yeah, the house is a lot. Like I worked on the mudroom today. In fact, my wife took off to go visit some friends this afternoon, and I used that opportunity to, she doesn't know about this. I repainted the mudroom because it was stained brown pine, and it was awful. And like the doorways were maple and all that jazz. So I just redid the whole room in white. Weeping glass in the first floor. The front of the house and the first floor is mostly weeping glass. The back of the house, this window right here is, and there's two here. The back of the house, the dining room has one window in the back. That is, the bathroom is a newer window. The upstairs is all newer windows, except for one window in our room is still old. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 weeping glass windows, which all need to be replaced because they're all single pane. None of them are thermal glass. None of them are double pane. Most of them are counterweighted, right? So they've got the metal weight hanging inside them. So when you lift them, the weight kind of keeps them from falling down. Half of them, the weights have detached, so they don't stay up anymore. So when you lift them, you have to like put something in to prop them to keep them from falling. In fact, this is fun. This window right here, which looks off into our side yard, does not stay up. But I do have this trusty dagger. I got this at a convention. It was a gift for trading Mage Knight miniatures, interestingly enough. And this dagger just happens to be the exact right height to hold the window up. So when that window behind me is open, I use this to prop it up. And if anyone needs to sacrifice anything for a ritual, I gotcha. So, but you got to come here because the knife has to stay, the dagger has to stay, so I can keep my window open. And that's also why this lives right here. But yeah, the house is great. It's really cool. We got some space. We're in a good spot in town. We're near stuff, and we're still away from stuff enough that it doesn't feel like we live in the city. So yeah, I mean, that's the state of affairs of the world right now. Adrian's good. I think what else? What have I not talked about in a while? Ravaged Skies. The Hat Trick has done fairly well. The series as a whole, I think there's 12 authors, 11 or 12. Somebody dropped out, and I can't remember if that dropped us from 13 to 12 or 12 to 11. But across the board, the novels are doing pretty good for everybody. They're all selling at a fairly good clip. And the more people write in that universe, the more attention it draws to all the books. And it still continues to sell fairly well. And I left it open to write more. The Hat Trick was a short novel. It was only like 65,000 words. Really short event of the beginning of the EMP solar flare kind of apocalypse. And that left the town that it was in wide open for more stories, and there were plenty of characters there. And at some point in time, it would be really great to return to that. It's definitely secondary to finishing up other series that are running. I talked to a couple other authors about possibly collaborating in the future, and that's still like we'll see kind of a thing. I co-wrote The Bleed with Mark Tufo and David Moody several years ago. It was a trilogy of books, and it was really fun to work with those guys. Mark's a cool dude. He lives a few hours away from me, and we bullshit. I had a phone call a week or so ago, just talk shop kind of stuff. And I would absolutely work with him again. He's booked out though, and there are other authors that would be fun to work with. So maybe that'll happen someday. Maybe it won't. We'll see. And what else? Do I have any other books? There has been, no one's probably noticed this, but it's something that I've been, Steve, I'll answer your question in a second. One of the things that's been going on behind the scenes is I did the Kickstarter several years ago to launch the hardcover versions of Adrian's, and the Kickstarter did great. Sold a couple hundred sets of books, raised a good amount of money to redo all the cover art and relaunch the series. But the company that distributes the hardcovers listed them incorrectly with incorrect product information, and it was classified as a leather-bound collected folio edition or something like that. It got entered wrong into the database, and it never showed up as an available hardcover on the retailers, which part of the reason why I did the whole thing was to have hardcovers show up so people could buy them. libraries and schools, generally speaking, do not like buying paperbacks. They do not want soft covers. They want hard covers because they last longer. They're willing to pay more because they last longer. And having them not show up at the retail level and not knowing that they hadn't shown up at the retail level, which is not me not doing due diligence, probably hurt me because I think I've only sold like 20 total books in the 2 years that they've been out. But I figured out the issue. I am working on a solution, and hopefully the hardcovers will be available across all mass market retailers sometime next year. But it will require work. So if you were looking for the hardcovers and you can't find them on retail and you want to buy them, I can give you a link on my website. If you go there, you can actually, there's a link that says hardcovers, and that brings you directly to the distributor, and you can order straight from them as opposed to going through like Amazon or Barnes & Noble or whatever, or local bookstores who can order them. It's just way more legwork than it needs to be. Or you can just message me. I have some here at the house, not a ton. But the hardcovers are out there. And I'm also considering doing hardcovers for either Glitch or Diggory because they're fairly short. I mean, Diggory is going to be 4 books total, and it would be really fun to do that and wouldn't cost a lot of money. And hardcovers are just neat, right? Steve, you didn't know about that series, The Ravaged Skies. So the EMP apocalypse, solar flare apocalypse subgenre is popular right now. It's, end of society kind of stuff, rebuilding America, rebuilding the world. And it's not horror related. It's more prepper logistics kind of stuff. And Bailey Higgins, who's a very successful post-apocalyptic author, she reached out and said, hey, I was thinking of writing stuff in this universe, and, would you want to do like a shared universe with a few other authors that, we've known and kind of been in the circles of, mostly like, again, zombie apocalypse or horror apocalypse kind of people. And I was like, actually, that sounds kind of cool. Like I might be willing to do that. I don't think I'd want to do it on my own, but if other people were jumping in and we kind of worked out a system, that would be fun. So we spent 3 or 4 months hashing out a Bible that dictated, the rules of how it was going to go down and the timeline of how it's going to go down. And we have a document, a Bible, that tells us when everything happened, down to the hour and minute, and how the flare hit and messed up the universe. And we all wrote books, and the first books in our respective, lane start at the apocalypse, start at the solar flare, either right before, during, or right after. And then from there, everyone who's continuing to write beyond book 1 can play around in the whole universe. And if they're crossing over into the areas that other authors have written in, we have part of our agreement is that authors can stray into IPs because it's a shared universe. So my characters might show up in someone else's books with my, approval and checking over, yep, that's good, you can do that, that's canon, go for it. Or, nah, I'd rather you didn't, you should do this instead, that kind of stuff. And it's called the Ravaged Skies universe, and it's about a mega solar flare that just cooks all the electronics across the world, leaving very little operating. And in our storyline, the flares stayed going long enough for the Earth to go around, so everything gets cooked. In a lot of the solar flare stories, they hit one huge region of the world, like the northern hemisphere, the southern hemisphere, or just Europe or whatever. But we wanted everything to get cooked. That way anyone could write a story anywhere. And we didn't want it to be about, America has a EMP dropped in the high altitude and it knocks out America, and then China and Russia show up. And, we didn't want to do that. But the stories are about survival. And about like the initial chaos of infrastructure disappearing. My story, The Hat Trick, takes place in northern New Hampshire in a fictional town called Farrington's Grant. And it's about a family that moved up there from southern Mass, Rhode Island, and they're a bunch of developers, like computer developer people, and they bought this house in the middle of nowhere. We're going to get away. We're going to live a country life. It's going to be great. We're going to raise the kids. It'll be wonderful. The city sucks, and they move up to a town and no one wants to talk to them. They're a bunch of, out-of-stater mass holes, and they can't make friends and there's nothing to do and they got to drive an hour to go anywhere. And they're like thinking of moving and pretty unhappy. And then the flares hit and they're outsiders in a town that becomes utterly paranoid that anyone coming into the town is trying to take what little resources the town has. And this is a small town. We're talking like, 200, 300 people, really small. And in my story, it's about this family trying to like connect with a community that has kept them at arm's length for, a year or two, and show them that even though, we're strangers, we're still part of the community and we have this to offer. And the family has a neighbor, an old guy named Hugh. And Hugh starts out as this like kind of this old guy who is a movie buff, and looks like he's a widower. And as things happen, he becomes like progressively more conspicuous in his hard-edgedness, and they start to realize that Hugh's a good guy, but he might not have always been a good guy. And the development of his character and how he interacts with the family and how desperation escalates things in the town is basically, my story. And small scope, small stakes, family, town, that's it. It's not the end of the world for, the large world, but it's how this town is going to survive this moment in time, and like, what does their future look like? And it was great. It was a really fun book to write. Again, short, so it would be easy to write more, and maybe go to the next town over or see what's happening in Maine, kind of a thing. So, but the Ravaged Skies universe all kind of toe that line, and some of them cross state lines. Like Breaker was written by I'm drawing a blank, but the Zompot guy that writes RJ Patrick. All right, no, I'm close. J.R. Patrick. Breaker's about a trucker. And his truck is in a place where he doesn't get hit by the flare, and he's able to drive as long as he can get fuel. So his story is about this trucker who's one of the last few vehicles on the road, like basically like trying to help out and trying to transit across places, and like all of the good and the bad that comes with that, because what vehicles do operate would become priceless, right? Because every new vehicle becomes a brick right now, because they're all circuit boards and batteries, and once they get fried, that's it. Like, we have a Tesla, right? If a solar flare hits, it's dead. That entire car is dead. You can't jumpstart it. It's not going to start at all. It doesn't have a key. It's just dead, right? You have 4 wheels and a couple 1,000 pounds of metal. But the older cars that aren't as computer driven still work, and those cars will be priceless. These old GMC pickup trucks that are on farms and stuff like that. The classic cars that, the old guys have in their shed that they've been restoring, those all still work. And, that's the level they're kind of brought back to. So it was fun. It was cool. And the other books in the series are wonderful. A lot of like family reuniting stories. And, some of them are the kind of stereotypical rise of the tyrants kind of stuff where, someone tries to seize power in the town and there's conflict. I don't think any of them are written far enough along to reach the level of like cannibal desperation, because it's not really what the universe was going for. But, there are people who, there are bandits. There are people who turn into criminals, and you have to deal with that. And what does that look like? Like, do the police still uphold the law? If you're not near the military, there's no one really to call for help. And examining those questions of what does it mean to rebuild? So, which in my Adrian story, that stuff does kick in, but it's against the backdrop of undead being all around. And like, how do we have rules? How do we have laws? What does that mean? How do we restart? Do we just try to do what we were doing and hope that that's the best way to do stuff? Or do we think that maybe we should do it a little differently? And what does that mean? Differently how? More liberal, less rules, more rules, this rule, that rule, and just kind of like turning a lens on our society and our culture and asking questions that don't have good answers is a big part of why these books are popular. because we know that politicians don't have it figured out. We know that we don't have it figured out, and we know that we're all theoretically trying to do our best, and we're not doing a very good job of it, and we don't have an apocalyptic scenario in our labs. So dropping those same questions into an apocalyptic scenario makes them much more urgent, and it's just interesting to watch characters kind of work through those issues. So big draw for the genre. And there's a lot of the EMP stuff out there, like a lot. It's kind of like, it was like the LitRPG of post-apocalyptic stuff. It got really, really big a couple of years ago and has remained really, really big. 1 Second After, I believe, is one of the big ones. And then this is a series written by a guy with the pen name A American, and the A is angry, so Angry American. And he has a very politically motivated story, which, if you're interested in seeing it from his perspective, it's good, and it's a good story, but it's politically charged. So some people are offended by it, some people love it. It's a good story. If you can stomach not agreeing with it, if you're of that bent, then great. William Forstchen, yep. Solid book, solid book. So we should probably call it a night here. It's almost 11 o'clock. I've been on an hour and a half. Those of you who have been here, I want to say thank you. It's been really fun to monologue at text messages as usual. I appreciate your support as always. It means a lot to me that anybody supports my work. And so many of you are strangers to me, which really is weird. Because it's like, I rely on you and I am grateful for you, but I don't know you, which is weird, but I'm thankful and I am grateful for all of your support and the years that some of you have continued to buy and read and listen to my stuff is incredibly amazing. And it allows me to live a life that is sweatpants centric. So in that regard, thank you very much. I am going to do this again soon. I'm not sure what my schedule is. What schedule did I say? I probably have a document here I can bring up. Documents. Undead Glitch. Live schedule. Yeah, so I mucked up the 14th. We rescheduled to the 19th. My next one is the 26th, so the day after Christmas. I'm going to do another one at 9:30. I might have Steve Van Sampson here, narrator of An Undead Glitch again. He would have been here tonight, but again, it was his daughter's birthday, so he gets a pass. But he might be here for the 26th, and he's great. And I'm trying to get some of the other guys in the LitRPG genre to jump on to kind of talk about their books and just kind of educate and have fun with them. I've reached out to a couple of them. A couple of them are trying to see if their schedules are full, but everyone's got stuff going on. But I will be back on the 26th. And then as always, I am accessible via social media pretty easily. It might take me a day or two to get back to you because some days I'm just inundated with messages and stuff to do. And other days it's nothing and I can write you back immediately. And I have no idea what every day will bring. So in that regard, I will say goodnight and wish everyone a wonderful weekend and a beautiful remainder to your Hanukkahs if you celebrate Hanukkah, and a wonderful Christmas if you celebrate Christmas. We happen to do both here at the Philbrook household, so we're double dipping on holidays and having a great time. So happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, joyous Kwanzaa, Happy Yule, solstice stuff, all that jazz. All the best to everybody. We'll see you soon.